Hey everyone, you're watching We Had That, and today I'm going to be talking about the Dorina Onoris figure from the Mythic Legions line. As you may already know, the Mythic Legions line was created by a group of toy designers who call themselves the Four Horsemen. Some of their early work included designing the 2000X line of Masters of the Universe figures released by Mattel in 2002. They also helped design the Masters of the Universe Classics line. As a tribute to some of those characters, the Four Horsemen have created several figures in their own Mythic Legions line that aren't officially characters from the Masters of the Universe, but who are clearly meant to be reminiscent of those characters. In fact, there are videos on my channel about several of these figures, including tributes to Trapjaw, Battlecat, and Panther. The Dorina Onoris figure was created with Sheira'S, Princess of Power, in mind. She wasn't technically part of the Masters of the Universe line, but Sheira'S and He-Man have always been part of the same universe. The two characters even worked together in the 80s Filmation movie, The Secret of the Sword, where we find out that they're in fact twins separated at birth by Hordak. When we look at Sheira'S and Darina side by side, it's clear that the two characters have several differences. Still, there are enough similarities to give Darina a Sheira'S feel without any lawyers getting involved. The original Sheira'S that came out in the 80s had a removable red cape and a removable white skirt with a gold belt. Darina has a removable red cloth cape, and she also wears a skirt, but her skirt is attached. Mythic Legions capes come with 4 holes at the top, and there are instructions on the Mythic Legions website to help you attach the capes to the figures by putting the pegs on the shoulder armor through the holes of the cape. Unfortunately, the holes are sometimes too close to the edge of the cape for this to really work, and also, like the cape that came with my figure, the holes are not usually quite in the right place. To attach the cape to my figure for these photos, I folded the cape over at the top and used the wings on Darina's helmet to hold it in place. Honestly, this was just a quick fix for the photo shoot, and it doesn't really feel like a good way to permanently attach the cape, but it worked well enough for my purposes. I'm trying to come up with a better way to attach the cape for displaying the figure. Sheira'S had a sword, a shield, and a removable crown? Mask? Headdress? Not really sure. Darina's sword is very reminiscent of Sheira'S sword. Even though the original figure came with a gold sword, the sword on the 80s cartoon was silver, so this sword works really well for me. However, I don't know why she was given a round shield. They're very common Mythic Legions shields that are much closer to the shape of Sheira'S shield. Even if it isn't perfect, I think it would have been closer to the original character design than the one she was released with. In the 1980s cartoon, Sheira'S wore more of a headband than that mask crown thing that came with the original figure. Each time Sheira'S has been reinvented, the approach to handling this piece has been slightly different. Although the version on Darina is unlike anything that any version of Sheira'S ever wore, it is a gold helmet with wings, so you could argue that it's a more real-world version of this piece. The wings can rotate or even be taken off, but without something else there in its place, it just leaves a flat flesh color underneath that doesn't really look very good. The original Sheira'S came with a pink comb. As a nod to this, the Classics figure came with an axe that was also a comb. It could have been so easy for the Four Horsemen to give Darina one of the 2 Mythic Legions axes that have pretty much the same overall shape as the axe/comb that was included with the Classics figure. It's not really a big deal, and the axes may have looked too barbaric for Sheira'S anyway, but I was still surprised they didn't include one of them. There are quite a few differences in the two characters' dresses, which probably helps to avoid any trademark violations, yet they're similar enough that we can still see the Sheira'S reference. Both characters wear white dresses with gold belts and gold accents, but the pattern on Sheira'S dress is very different than the one on Darina's dress. Also, while Sheira'S has a teal jewel right over her stomach, Darina has a teal jewel between her breasts and 2 on her belt. Darina also has an extra piece of gold armor hanging just below the belt and down almost to her knees that Sheira'S doesn't have at all. Both of these characters wear gold boots and armbands, but Darina's boots and armbands look much more armored than Sheira'S. Darina's skirt is extremely short in the back, exposing her butt. The hair is extremely detailed in the back with 3 long braids that have gold adornments holding the braids together. In addition to all the pieces that make the figure look more like She-Ra, Darina also had a second head, a brown belt, and a set of pauldrons that don't really have anything to do with She-Ra. The second head has been included with many other Mythic Legions figures as either an elf or a vampire head. Of the two, I would assume that Darina would have been an elf. Even though it's been included with several other figures that I have, it's still a pretty cool head, and I could see using it with this figure. The brown belt is the same belt that comes with most Mythic Legions figures. It has a slit in the side to hold a sword or a dagger. It's not needed for She-Ra, but as a different character, I like the way the belt looks on the figure. The pauldrons are supposed to help hold the cape on, but as I've mentioned before, the holes in my cape are too close to the edge for me to be comfortable attaching the cape this way. But I still like adding the shoulder armor onto the figure, particularly with the other head, because I think it looks pretty cool. One thing that I think is interesting is most Mythic Legions figures come with 3 pieces that are used to attach wings to the figure's back. My Darina figure actually didn't have those pieces. I don't know if she was supposed to come with them and mine was just missing the pieces, or if this character doesn't have them at all, but I thought that was interesting since most of my figures did come with those. For people who aren't interested in having her play the role of She-Ra, Dorina Onoris has her own character as well, and she has her own somewhat familiar backstory. She led the rebellion against Lord Dragul and his evil mob. Although her strength and skill in battle helped to defeat Dragul, she's loved by her people for her compassion and her spirit. She fights for the House of the Noble Bear, a faction of commoners and outcasts who defend Mythos against the rising forces of evil. But regardless of her backstory, I like this figure quite a bit. I've been a fan of the sword and sorcery genre since I was a kid. I loved the Little Metal Dungeons & Dragons figures, fantasy art by guys like Boris Vallejo, and even those bad sword and sorcery movies from the 80s. So it was easy for me to get into the Mythic Legions line. This figure is specifically great in so many ways. The paint job is amazing, particularly on the face. It's extremely detailed and applied very well. Unfortunately, when I took the figure out of the package and started posing it for photos, the paint started flaking off right away. I haven't ever run into this problem with any of my other Mythic Legions figures before, so I'm not sure what the difference is this time. Although many of my other figures don't have as many paint apps, several of them seem to be painted just as much as this one, so I'm disappointed that I'm having a problem this time around, and I'm really not sure why. It's still a great figure, and I don't regret my purchase. I just have to be careful when I pick it up. So what do you think of the Dorina Onoris figure? Are you more interested in the figure because of the Masters of the Universe connection? Tell me in the comments below. Also, please give this video a like, share it on social media. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe to my channel and hit that notifications bell. And one last thing, if you're a fan of toys, you should know about ToyLanta, the biggest toy show in the southeastern United States, held annually just north of Atlanta, Georgia. Visit ToyLanta.com for more information. As always, thanks for watching.